too. As we headed for the lab after lunch, Stanford warned me. Don't blame me if you don't get along with him. He said, I know nothing of him other than what I've told you. Remember, this is your idea. If we don't get along, I can move out, I said. But Stanford, you seem to have some reason for being worried. Is this fellow bad-tempered, or what? Holmes is a little too scientific for my tastes, almost cold-blooded. Stanford replied, I can imagine him slipping some chemical into a friend's food just to see how it works on a human body. To be fair, though, I think that he would take it himself just as readily. He has a passion for exact knowledge. That's fine with me, I quickly replied. As he spoke, we entered the hospital's laboratory. The room was littered with countless bottles, test tubes, and Bunsen burners. There was only one student in sight, bending over a table, absorbed in his work. At the sound of our footsteps, he cried, I found it! I found it! And he ran toward us with a test tube in his hand. I found a substance that is activated by blood and nothing else. He had discovered a gold mine. He couldn't have looked more delighted. Dr. James Watson, meet Mr. Sherlock Holmes, said Stanford. How are you? Said Holmes, gripping my hand with surprising strength. You have been in Afghanistan, I see. How did you know that? I asked in astonishment. Never mind, said he, chuckling to himself. The question now is about blood. Surely you see the importance of my discovery. It's interesting, I said, but why, it is the most practical medico-legal discovery in years. It gives us a foolproof test for blood stains. Come here. He pulled me over to the table where he had been working. Let's have some fresh blood. He poked a needle into his fingertip and squeezed out a drop of blood. I'll add this small amount of blood to a liter of water. You can't even see it. It looks like pure water, but watch. He threw a few white crystals into the glass jar. Then he added a few drops of a clear fluid. In an instant, the mixture turned a deep reddish brown, and a brownish dust shifted to the bottom of the jar. Huh, he cried, clapping his hands. Proof of the presence of blood. It works no matter how old the blood is or how little there is. If this test had been invented sooner, countless guilty men now walking about free would long ago have paid for their crimes. Indeed, I murmured. Think how many criminal cases hang on that one point. A man is suspected of a crime, perhaps months after it occurred. His clothes are found to have stains on them, but are they blood stains or mud stains, rust or fruit stains? There was no reliable test. Now, however, we have the Sherlock Holmes test. His eyes gleamed with pride, and he put his hand over his heart and bowed, as if to a cheering crowd. Congratulations, I said. We came here on business, Stanford told Holmes. My friend here is looking for lodgings, and since you were complaining that you couldn't get anyone to share with you, I thought that I should bring you two together. Sherlock Holmes seemed delighted at the idea of sharing his rooms with me. I have my eye on a place on Baker Street, he said. I usually have chemicals about. Will that annoy you? Not at all, I said. Let me see. What are the other shortcomings? I get down in the dumps at times and don't open my mouth for days on end. Just leave me alone when I do that, and I'll be all right in a while. What do you have to confess? I laughed at this questioning. Well, I don't like a lot of noise, I said, because my nerves are easily shaken. I get up at all sorts of hours, and I'm extremely lazy. Do you count violin playing as noise? He asked anxiously. Not if it's well played, I answered. A well-played violin is a treat for the gods. A badly played one, oh, that's all right, he cried, with a merry laugh. Meet me here tomorrow at noon. We'll settle everything then. All right, noon, exactly, I said, shaking his hand. Stanford and I left Holmes working among his chemicals and walked back toward my hotel. By the way, I asked, stopping suddenly, how on earth did he know that I've just come from Afghanistan? Stanford smiled an odd little smile. That's just his little peculiarity, he said. A lot of people want to know, how he finds things out." "Oh, a mystery, is it?" I cried, rubbing my hands. "This is very interesting. Thank you for bringing us together. The proper study of mankind is men, you know." "Well, study him then," said Stanford. "You'll find him a knotty problem, though. I'll bet he learns a lot more about you than you learn about him."